Our retrieved Reformation shows the perspective throughout the story of Jimmy Valentine.
Jimmy cracks the safe to save the little girl because he's just trying to help, but everybody else thinks that he's gone back to his old ways.
Jimmy has to forget about his past completely or it'll give away that he was once a safecracker.
Jimmy tries to erase his past, but once a girl is in danger, he cracks the safe, so he goes back to his old ways.
Jimmy finds different ways to delete his past to move on to better things.
And we claim that in Retrieved Reformation, the story shows empowerment due to the fact that throughout the story, Jimmy Valentine changes his bad and safe-cracking ways for his true love.
We think that one evidence that supports our claim is that Jimmy Valentine changes his ways, and the only time he does safe crack is when he saves someone, and the detective lets him go because he thinks he's a changed man.
Our second piece of evidence is that Jimmy himself is reluctant to open a safe because he changed his ways, and even if this safe contains his love's daughter.
Anyway, our third and final piece of evidence is that the detective does let them go, even though he cracked open a safe, which is a crime. It could have been that the safe contained somebody, or it could have been that the detective believed he was a changed person.
The story of a Retrieved Reformation shows empowerment because Jimmy changes himself for his true love, and he is even reluctant to go back to his old ways of safe cracking when the person is trapped in the safe, so that he doesn't have to be the way he used to be. And even when he does show that he was a safe cracker, his love leaves him.
Jimmy Valentine decides to change his life around and make an honest living when he meets Annabelle.
When Jimmy Valentine first talks to Annabelle, he decides to reform his life and makes a good living as a shoe salesman.
Jimmy Valentine falls in love with the banker's daughter, who in his eyes is the most beautiful girl in town.
So the ex-convict, Jimmy, was a shoe salesman in prison, and that's what he decided to do as his occupation.
Jimmy Valentine overall decides to completely change his life so that he could live happily with Annabelle.
Jimmy Valentine's life was going amazing until one day he had to use his crime skills to help a young girl, knowing that he could expose himself and lose everything he had made.
One day, Jimmy Valentine had to make the decision to save Annabelle's cousin when she got stuck in the safe.
Jimmy Valentine, even though he knew that he could lose everything he had made, from his business to romance, he was willing to give up that to help a girl from a safe.
His perspective is that he would have rather done the right thing and walked out than doing the wrong thing and Annabelle's cousin being stuck in the safe.
Jimmy's life changed drastically from being a criminal to opening a safe even though he could be exposed.
A Retrieved Reformation addresses perspective through the prison-breaking, life-reforming, safe-cracking life of Jimmy Valentine.
In the beginning, Jimmy is a prisoner. When he is released due to a corrupt government, the warden tells him to make a change. Yet Jimmy went right back to his safe-cracking ways.
Jimmy goes and cracks numerous safes, then goes to a small town where he meets the love of his life, Annabelle Adams, who happens to be the daughter of the banker. One day, while he's at the bank, a young girl gets trapped inside the safe. Jimmy cracks the safe, but that means he would lose the girl.
In the beginning, Jimmy's perspective on life is that you don't have to change. Near the end of the story, his perspective changes, and he decides to reform his life because of his love for Annabelle. At the end, Jimmy's perspective on life would be that you can change, but you can never erase your checkered past.
In conclusion, Jimmy did change his safe-cracking prison life, but that doesn't mean that the past was erased.